Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mom Series, The Misunderstanding of Multiplicity. My name is Maria. So, as most of you know that are subscribed to me and do visit, thank you so much for still hanging in and visiting. And for those that want to subscribe, you'd be very welcome here. I usually talk about mental health conditions and how the media portrays them and labels, pathological labels. My main focus of this channel has been the experience of being diagnosed with multiple personality disorder back in 1986 when it was called that. And then in 1993 to 94, it was changed to DID, dissociative identity disorder. I came out here in 2009, Face to Monitor, talking about my daily life experience. I don't hold a popular opinion out here. I'm going to be 63 years old in May, and I've had 30 years of therapy and then some. I have videos on being on for chronic pain in my body, being put on opiates and fentanyl and soma and benzos, and how I tapered off in 2009. My doctor had given me a tapering off schedule in 2009, and on a 4-day weekend, I literally went off of every medication I had been on for 30 years. I didn't have a doctor at my home. I didn't have a nurse. I um, I had God, and I had a determination to want to be free of chasing my tail and only getting more pain. Um, so I had valid conditions that warranted that medication. But what I found is that the dosage my doctor was giving me was going up and up and up. And I felt like I would die if I continued taking the medication. And I also was scared and felt like I would die if I went off of it because it gave me a little relief, but not much. It gave, I mean, no, there's no high you get from once you're dependent. And I never did. It just distanced me from the pain in my body. I am an abuse survivor. I've talked about that out here. But mostly what I've talked about is that the depictions in the media that we think are what a drug dependent person looks like and acts like. The depictions in the movie of what we think multiple personality or dissociative identity disorder looks like, or an abuse survivor, or post traumatic stress. The Vietnam vet coming back from war and every little car that backfires, making them go crazy, or every person that has trauma in their background or sexual abuse or whatever, becoming a killer later. Excuse me. Sorry. So I have videos out here about what my detox was like. And mostly I talk about labels and misperceptions in the media and how it perpetuates fear and myth regarding all kinds of things: post traumatic stress, homelessness, prostitution, all of the characters, excuse me, that we see depicted, especially if they have a mental health disorder like bipolar or um, anxiety or whatever, how psychiatry, like Hollywood on the Couch, I review all the books, how psychology and Hollywood really got together and tried to show us what characters look like who have had trauma in the past, are abuse survivors, are have post-traumatic stress, DID, dissociate, Alzheimer's, dementia. All of these things have been depicted to us, and a lot of times that fear and stigma just perpetuates autism. And we, or what a person that is challenged developmentally what they used to call retarded, is like. We we get these pictures in our head, and it wasn't until the internet came along that people that were experiencing these conditions could really get together and see each other and say, that's not how it is. That's not how my life is. And really become the media. And so there have been a lot of people out here trying to bring awareness to different things. Um, whatever health conditions they have, whatever struggles they've had. And I pulled away from my channel because the quote unquote people with a DID or multiple personality, whatever you want to call it, it became a show and tell out here. And I felt like the actual, what started off as maybe 2 or 3 people sharing awareness brought out Snapchat, TikTok, Tumblr, all kinds of teenagers and young people really doing a lot of role playing, and you will know them by they are taking money from you. So they're serving up a shit show of drama, and you are paying to watch it. So I backed away. I backed away because that is not the kind of awareness that anybody wanted. Okay, so similarly, I talk about in my story of my life, I talk about domestic violence, growing up in a turbulent home where both of my parents were just not meant to be together. And that's just the most graceful way I can say it. They brought out the worst in each other. They knew how to push each other's buttons. When I look at my parents, I cannot blame one over the other. I can say one had a sickness that was diagnosed that I don't even think the diagnosis was correct, but I can say the other one had impulse anger problems before even meeting this one. So, I mean, I've always been very generous in my looking at a couple who is going through a time. All right. So, I've really been watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, which I'm sure a lot of people are. And the last 2 days have been very triggering and hard to watch because I can relate to so much of it. And that is why I really am believing Johnny Depp. Um, I am tired of the Me Too movement. I am tired of Time's Up. There are real victims, and then there are people that have embellished and made more of something, and you can tell because they're selling it. They're selling it. And what I look at is, are you looking for money with what you're telling? Or are you just out here sharing? Because I'm going to borrow from Spidey, body language, behavioral mentalist, where he says, truth tellers tell, liars sell. Um, there's no, if you've gone through an experience and you feel like God or the universe or their higher power or whatever has allowed you to go through and learn a lesson so that you could help others, just sharing your story is helping others. You don't have to become a motivational influencer charging money and teaching people how to get better like you did in 2 seconds or whatever. I really kind of am standoffish to all the channels and podcasts that are like, okay, you know, spend a little money, do a session with me or whatever. No. I feel like in this situation with Johnny, Amber upping to 100 million told me a lot right there. Countersuing for 100 million. And now hearing Johnny's testimony that her anger really began at finding out there was no prenup and she wasn't in his will. Um, Yesterday, his testimony, I couldn't help but little flags were going up when he said certain things, like when he first met Amber Heard, that um, he knew what Hunter, who had died of suicide, the man that wrote the book, the movie um, that they were in, was about. He knew what characters Hunter wanted, and the man that took over, I think Bruce was his name, asked Johnny, "What do you think of Amber? I auditioned her 5 or 6 times, but what do you think?" And Johnny was like, "You don't really need to have her audition. I think you know if she's okay or not. Let me meet with her." And he said something very telling. He said, "I really thought that she was intelligent, that she was articulate, that she was bright, that she was beautiful, and that this was the character, and this was the character Hunter had in mind, because this was the character that could kill me." Um, that was a moment when it just stopped my heart. I was like, and they panned on Amber, and she stayed with that blunted expression on her face. Chin up, stoic, nothing. Um, I related to Johnny saying he hid in the bathroom, locking the door. I understood a parent going off the hook and off the rails, and having to be in a room locked in for 24 to 48 hours to and that person banging on the door and running with things and yelling and screaming. I related to that. I related to his becoming passive, because he wanted to keep peace, because he didn't want to start that fighting again. So that's why he stayed. Um, I related to his mother taking a nerve pill and then realizing I could get calm if I take one, because that's exactly how I started when I was younger. It was numbing. I specifically, it was just really a lot of triggering stuff to listen to today. And I think a lot of people have been mentioning in chat that he's stuttering deliberately, or he's pensive, or being cautious, or whatever. That is his normal um, speech. He has a little bit of a French accent thrown in, a little bit. But if a person normally was thoughtful and pensive in his speech, um, he's going to have a little bit of stuttering that goes on in a courtroom. So I don't believe he is performing at all. He also said something that I truly believed. When a person is strategic, long-standing strategic, and won't back down, and is hitting people hard at their weakest time, um, and kind of like broadcasting and performing and making something appear like it's not. Um, it's diabolical. And Johnny used that word, and I've been saying right along, she is diabolical. Years ago, a doctor described one of my parents as diabolical after they passed away. And I was livid, because I thought, well, that person wasn't evil. And later I went to the doctor and I said, when I'm in the middle of the funeral burying a parent and you call to give me your wishes and then say, "I'm sorry, but your blah, blah, blah was diabolical." Um, I didn't know how to take that until I really researched the word. And I think Johnny is a real word person. And it's a treacherous amount of plotting and planning only for your own good at another's demise. And it doesn't care how it gets its needs met. Now, some people could say that's narcissism, but it goes one step further. And I'll be back. So from my heart, excuse me, if I go to make a video, knock, knock at the door, ring, ring, my cat scream, maintenance decides to show up. It's just the way it goes. It's been really tough to listen to this. So I want to just warn people that are from an abuse. In my case, there was never a time that my parents were okay. So from pre-verbal, I learned to hide. I learned to read the room. I began flinching. And I remember my dad telling me he knew that that I had gotten under the table and curled up into a ball. And he knew this can't go on. Now here's the thing I wanted to say is, in becoming a social worker later in years, I got to counsel many people that were pretty much thrown away in the mental health system. They didn't enter into shelters very well. They didn't follow the regs and rules very well. They made other people uncomfortable. And they were people that needed to really be on their own, live alone, and uh, usually they had schizophrenic tendencies. They were long-standing mentally ill. Now, I know on a spectrum, schizophrenia and schizophrenic traits are in every mental health disorder. And that's something people really need to learn, is that it's not just people walking around talking to themselves and hearing voices and going out killing people. There are many high functioning schizophrenics. There's also schizoaffective disorder, which is what I really think I'm seeing in Amber. And I'm not diagnosing, I'm speculating from what I see, is that when the camera is on her, she is definitely performing to the camera. She dressed the part of a sergeant or militant, stoic, trying to look very suited up, businesslike, conservative. She's done it all. Today, she's wearing her hair down, swept up. I think she's trying to see, there's a lot of manipulation going on. She's trying to bring Johnny back to when he first met her and how she wore her hair. People have been talking about how she's had her hair in braids, she's had her hair severe. But when she was with Johnny, she often swept her hair back on the side and brought one side down. So, she's wearing a V-neck dress. I'm just surprised she didn't show up in the white dress that Johnny spoke of from the movie The Drum Diary that they met in. I have been saying right along, I think Johnny was smitten and bitten by a vampire, an emotional vampire. Um, his generosity has been astounding to me, that all of Amber's family and friends were just rent free in penthouses. They're grifters. They're grifters. Because I feel, just my opinion, and everyone has one, that anybody who can just stay free, uh, and not even try to offer any money, is a swindler. So, I, I just feel like a lot of people took advantage of him. Now, is he remembering everything correctly? I don't know, because if he was on drugs for some of the time, he might not be remembering everything correctly. But I know that when you have a public image like that, you're very isolated and you have a lot of handlers that handle your security, your house, your personal assistants, going aforehand and securing everything, surveying a crowd, letting you know when time's up, you need to go back to your hotel room. It's a very isolating life that celebrities live. But at the end of the day, celebrities are just people who are talented at entertaining us, and we shouldn't be worshiping them. And I don't think they want to be worshiped. They're given an obscene amount of money to do good with. And what I hope is that anyone that is awarded this money would give it to a cause worthy of stopping the cycle of domestic violence and abuse. Um, Getting back to Johnny and Amber's therapist, um, she said some things that were interesting to me, anyways, because I did do couples, marriage counseling, family counseling, and um, she's she quickly jumped to there's that they were mutually abusive, um, and that they both admitted to physical abuse. Um, but Johnny is saying no, that he'd never put his hand on any woman like that. So I think they're probably going to need to bring her back. Um, but she also said that she felt that not, and I'm paraphrasing, that Amber was the aggressor, that Johnny tried to de-escalate, but Johnny couldn't find his voice, that Amber spoke in a jackhammer way, fire rapid, wouldn't let anyone get a word in edgewise, wouldn't hear a person out, finished his sentences. Um, she's on a ton of medication that doesn't make sense. She speaks of her their therapist spoke of Johnny triggering Amber's childhood conflicts with her father, where she wanted to be able to hit first instead of being hit. So every disagreement, she had anticipatory anxiety, thinking Johnny was going to get violent, and so she would hit him. And then abandonment. I can't even tell you how I know this, but I see schizoaffective traits in Amber, and borderline personality, and those would all go together, and such a fear of abandonment, that and having to be right, not ever being wrong, or admitting wrong. Whereas Johnny's admitting wrong all over the place. He's saying, okay, I could have done that better. Maybe I should have done it. I apologize for this, whatever. But Amber's not being too quick to admit any wrongdoing. But the audio leaks now of their conversations, you can see that she does admit that that she was throwing things and not letting him, that he locked himself in 9 different bathrooms. I got to tell you, when I was a kid, one bathroom to lock ourselves in. You hope that door would hold. Because when my mother started banging on that door, it was bad. And And vice versa. When my dad started banging on the door, it was bad. It became the place she went to hide because it was the only room with a lock on it. Um, I could relate. And I believe that they were equally emotionally abusive and toxic to each other. And that's what the therapist said. They brought out the worst in each other. Um, so I guess in some circles, you could say they were maybe a twin flame, that they needed to learn a lesson from each other, where Amber needed to realize her dad wasn't, um, she didn't have to be in conflict with her dad all the time. But I also feel like her dad wanted her to behave a certain way, and that's what brought the conflict. Um, I don't know, there's such a smug boldness, arrogance with her that I can't pinpoint what's going on, but I can see her getting physical really quick. She appears drugged. I think she is on antipsychotic medication, um, like maybe Serconal or trying to think of what else. Like I think she's on Serconal. I think she is. Um, I don't know that. Um, her former personal assistant is saying that she was on Provigil, Pro, Prog, I can't say it now, Provigil, which I know is given for people. I knew it was given for people with sleep apnea or um, 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 narcolepsy. They fall asleep all the time, so they need to stay awake. Or people that need to stay awake, and it's abused often, like Adderall is. Um, but if it was abused, it's just kind of interesting because she's on Provigil, but she's also on Ambien. Ambien is to go to sleep. And I know they both can be prescribed together for some situations, like insomnia. So if she had insomnia, she could have been taking Ambien to go down at night and her need to go to sleep. And Johnny didn't want to go to sleep at that time, but her wanting to go to sleep. And I've been listening to all of it and trying to keep an open mind for all sides. With Johnny saying he wanted to stay up later, her really getting upset about wanting to go to sleep, um, and have a structured time to go to sleep. That sounds like somebody that might suffer from insomnia and be really tired and wants to go to sleep. So, and especially if she was taking Ambien, she would need to get down at a certain time. And then Provigil to stay awake. If the Ambien was still in her system, she would still be a little sleepy, groggy, out of it. Look, I just never liked the commercials for Ambien. I mean, anything that's got a butterfly floating through it. I don't like that Lunesta one either. You know, don't get up to go to the bathroom or whatever. You might not remember anything. You might wander out of your house and drive your car and drive it off a bridge or something because make sure you stay in bed after you take your Ambien because you don't know what could happen. I've always thought that's a very dangerous drug. And I have talked to people that have been Ambien dependent, and it's a hell of a one to get off of. So I just feel for these people, and I want to say that Amber is not the face of Me Too. Time's up. No. Um, she is an opportunistic, diabolical. Her behavior is opportunistic and diabolical, in my opinion. Johnny, and I'm not starstruck. I'm not. These people are just people. The only person I come close to worshiping is the purple Yoda prince, who is going home prematurely and being killed, is coming up tonight and tomorrow. And it just seems like the world's been strange since Prince left. It's been weird shit has happened since Prince left this earth in 2016. Um, that said, I do get a little borderline like, oh, Prince. But anybody else, I'm just not starstruck. Um, I I'm just not. Uh, I always wonder how they do it because they are locked in a hotel room. I was remembering when Chris Cornell, when they said he hung himself, which I don't believe he did, but um, he was locked into his hotel. Make sure he's locked in there, right? Because they have no life unless they're on the stage, unless they're doing junket circuits and movie promotion, and they have no life. Everything. When I was listening to, I think it was Kate James, I don't know if she goes by Kathy or Kate James, the former personal assistant of Amber Heard. Some people might be thinking, well, okay, she was an interesting witness, entertaining and weird, and you know, but I mean, she was honest. But personal assistants don't like having to do what they have to do for people. But you'd have to be very, very creative and plan well in advance to be able to do what you need to do to live a daily life with the paparazzi, fan, the worship, the crowds. It's really hard. Um, so I'm watching with an open mind, but I'm just got a sick feeling about Amber. I think she thought I hit gold with Johnny, and the minute she realized she was not in his will, she was checking out of that. I do believe that. All right, I gotta go. That's all. Bye bye. Take time to get away from the testimony and de-stress if it's triggering anything in you guys. Take care.